So the Democratic Party is having this picnic in July,
Oh, wonderful.
and we're asking $100 donation if you want to set up a table to get volunteers.
Sure.
Mayor Pete.
Okay.
So, want to go ahead?
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you.
It's to the end of the day.
Folks on the phone, can you please confirm if you can hear us on our end?
Yep, I could hear you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, we're gonna connect the PowerPoint.
Okay. Eric Swalwell was always on TV. He's like Mr. MSNBC.
Okay, folks, we're gonna begin streaming in about 8 minutes. We're just getting stuff set up in the room over here. Okay, cool. I think we got it working now. Okay, so folks, welcome. This is our all hands call, and we're also going to be having a workshop. I'm very excited to introduce Susan Pfeiffer to the group. So Susan is very active with the political grassroots community. She's very graciously offered to give us a canvassing kind of lesson on tabling. And I want to open up today with Joe. He's going to be giving us an update on San Francisco Pride. What do we need to know? Where are we all meeting up? Transportation, and all your questions that you have about Pride. Joe's right here to answer everything that you have. And, you know, before we kind of start off today, I just really want to commend everybody in here, and especially Joe. Joe has registered 105 people up in San Francisco. I mean, amazing. Joe, I don't know how you pulled it off, but that's phenomenal. For Silicon Valley, thank you. Sure. We'll just. So for Silicon Valley, we're at 44.
Which is great.
Yeah, you know, but we've still got time to catch up to Joe. So I want to encourage everybody, get your recruitment numbers up. And one thing that I wanted to say is that we had the chance to do flyer walks last weekend. We went to San Mateo Pride. We also went to the drag brunch in downtown San Jose. And, you know, I have to tell you guys, it really does make a huge difference when we go out with our Pete shirts and we get ourselves out there in the community. And I think Joe can really attest to this, that the fact that there's a 2020 candidate group that is even out there at these events is making a huge difference. I didn't see a single other candidate out there with any kind of grassroots presence at drag brunch, at Pride celebration, and I was shocked because it's a big community event. So I think it's really important that everybody, we have to all get our numbers up when it comes to recruitment and volunteering. So while Joe is presenting, I'm going to pass out to everybody 10 of our recruitment flyers today. I want to challenge everybody in here. You got to pass out 10 of those flyers by end of week next week. You know, let's get that out there, because it's not necessarily that gets our numbers up, but what it is doing is creating a certain momentum in the community that this is a grassroots group to be reckoned with, and that we are actually having a candidate presence out there. Because I can tell you, I didn't even see the Bernie guys at the events this weekend. That's telling you something, okay? That other folks are getting complacent, they're slipping up, and we have an advantage in there. So with that in mind, and to kickstart, I'd like to hand it off to Joe to inform us about SF Pride.
All right. Well, thank you, Natasha. It's funny, we think of this group as the gold standard for organizing, because you guys are, you even have your own PowerPoint template. So we've been catching up. So just to give you a little bit of sense, and you know, I think we'll just touch on this. What's going on a national basis? Pete is between 3rd and 6th place in most of the polls now, and on a state level. In the early primary states, he's doing really well. He's like not in the top 3 or not in the top 2, but he's like lurking perfectly at number 3, 4, or 5. And there was a poll from Nevada that just came out. Also, you also might have read that Pete, according to Politico, raised $7 million in the month of April alone, which is how much he raised in the first quarter. So we're expecting really good fundraising numbers. And these numbers don't happen by accident. I know Natasha's group and our group have been really promoting the heck out of these fundraisers in San Francisco, many of which take place across the Bay Area on May 10th and June 1st. And one of the reasons our numbers are up, Natasha, for the Pride event is we went to the Oakland grassroots event and the San Francisco grassroots event, and we became part of the event, passing out our flyers to promote Pride, our Pride March. So we'll tell you a little bit about that. Just to show you, though, we're not complete slackers. We do have a logo. It does look like the Giants logo intentionally. It is Rust Belt orange, happens to be the same color as International Orange, which is the color of the Golden Gate Bridge. And that dark blue, which looks like black, is actually Pete's whatever blue. So we are playing off the iconography of the Bay Area as well as Pete. So that's one thing. And you can see we're going to have fun with it. We have San Francisco for Pete, SF for Pete. Oh, 1 second. So you'll be seeing more of those things. So we're in pretty good shape for the Pride Parade. Here are our goals for the Pride. We want to raise awareness for Pete in the Bay Area. We have 1 million people come to the Pride Parade. It's televised by all 3 networks or all 4 networks in San Francisco. It's a big deal. And it's free advertising, basically. I think it's a $180 fee to be in the Pride Parade, $80 for insurance. If you add all our expenses together, we probably spend about $600. So, and that's a really good return of an investment. Kamala Harris is going to be in the Pride Parade. She sent out a flyer yesterday or an email yesterday asking for supporters to march. It's her home turf. We want to have a really good presence there. So right now we have
Hey
100.
Joe, hey, sorry to interrupt you, but for the fees that you paid, because we have a question from the group for the San Jose Pride Parade, they're asking us to register as a government entity. Did you guys have to do that?
We are officially, our group is known as Bay Area Supporters for South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg.
I see. Okay.
And we are, because he's an elected official, we are supporters of an elected official. And so we're going to get into that. Basically, what we were told is, even though the lines are blurred in San Francisco on this, you'll see Kamala Harris, Senator Kamala Harris, and everyone will be wearing her campaign T-shirts. There's no, it's so, but there's so much going on at Pride, 500 contingents. They don't police it, but they do ask, and we'll get into more about, we can't wear shirts that say vote and things like that.
I see. Because we were actually, for our group, we were wondering how we're going to account for stuff against in-kind donations and the like, because yeah, that's the exact question I had, is how were you guys able to register?
So we
yeah.
basically, individuals, and we're operating at a loose grassroots level, and individuals, like I have an accounting of how much I spent and everyone else has spent that I know of on major expenses, and we're trying to factor that into our own individual contributions to Pete too, for the cycle.
So everything has to be accounted. Okay.
Yeah, but without filing paperwork and all that stuff, we're just trying to be good citizens here. Yeah. Anyway, so this is a big publicity opportunity. We want people, everyone goes to Pride in San Francisco. It's corporations, every corporate entity in the Bay Area is there. It's like a rolling TV commercial for everything, for all things goodness. So we wanted to be there, but we wanted to get Pete supporters involved in an exciting event. And I marched for Obama in 2008, 2012, and I was so high after marching down that street, and people were so responsive to us that we know that's probably going to be the same for Pete, or even more so, because as the first openly LGBT candidate running on the Democratic side. So we're at 150. Our official goal was 200 plus marchers. We'll get there, right, Natasha?
Oh, I'm sure.
We're going to get there. We were a little disappointed because we got word from the campaign today that after checking with South Bend, they cannot promote our event because we're a non-official event. Now, I thought this might happen. So we're looking at different strategies. We're asking them, can we turn it into an official event? Because it's such a big parade. And we're also looking at how can we get around this with social media, just going to the personal Twitter accounts of people like Liz Smith, who are with the campaign. If they retweet something, it's the same thing as gets a lot of eyeballs. So we're going to see how we can adjust, and we'll just keep on going. So at this Pride Parade, how many people have signed up for Pride here? All right, great. Well, when you go to the link, and I think you put this on there's a link to an Amazon page. We're all wearing, I wore my shirt yesterday because we had 2 meetings for Pete yesterday, but basically we're wearing the same royal blue Pride shirt. And it just says Pete. And
It's
it
like
says
this, but royal blue.
royal blue.
And I
Yeah.
wear mine tomorrow, so I didn't.
Exactly, right? And
I live in them.
so we're wearing that, and we're going to have a banner that Renee actually created for us that we'll pass around to the Bay Area groups. And Renee, can you briefly say what it looks like?
Yeah, I drew the logo right from the Pete website. So and I posted it on our Silicon Valley site, so you've probably seen it. But it just says Pride. It's like Pete and the Pride, colors, and then I added PeteForAmerica.com on the bottom, just so people know where to go.
And we placed an order for 25,000 stickers. We're gonna give out. We're gonna give lots of stickers out, and we're gonna also have U.S. and Pride flags, both big ones and small ones. So it's gonna be a lot of pageantry. We are actually located, and we're contingent number 130 out of supposedly 498. So we're in the top third of the parade. We're gathering at 12:30, and we ask people to arrive no later than 12:45, because at 1 o'clock we go on. Now in the past there was always delays, but recently they've sped it up, so it's pretty chop. So we'll hopefully that is maintained. The close we're going to be you have it there. We're going to be on Main Street between Market and Mission. And we're gonna.
Hey, Joe.
Yep.
So Market and Mission, just because look, some of us are like SF illiterate, so.
It's okay. We get confused with all the sands down here.
Yeah. So okay, can you like maybe tell us a restaurant or something that's on
So
that?
what we're gonna do is on Market, on Main Street between Market and Mission, there's a Citibank ATM there. You can't miss it. There's a Citibank there. And we're going to be meeting at the Citibank ATM.
Why do you say that? You gotta meet in the street. You have to line up in the street. What are you talking about?
Sorry.
Hello?
Hi, who's there? Hello.
Anyway, it's easy to find. I mean, I'm like, we're going to be on Main Street between Market and Mission. We're going to be at the Citibank ATM area. It's on the south side of the street, so you can't miss it. We're going to be public transportation, the Embarcadero BART stop and Muni stop, as well as the Caltrans San Francisco station, the end of the line. Can't go further. And both of them are only like 2 or 3 blocks away. So we're asking everyone who marches to buy and wear a Pete t-shirt. If you don't want to buy the one we're suggesting, that's okay. We're trying to create this billboard effect walking down the street with the same royal blue. You could do a prime shipping. It's easy, but that's the reason we went with Amazon. We are encouraging people that we need 14 safety monitors. We're halfway there. We're probably at actually 9. So it would be great, Natasha, if you guys could get 5 safety monitors.
Okay.
And really, it's very easy. Watch a 10-minute video, put your code in for our contingent, and it just shows that you've been trained as a safety monitor. We're asking everyone to bring a water bottle, a hat, sunscreen, and snacks. We're not going to provide these because we don't think it's good to hand out water bottles. We're trying to eat like lunch. Exactly. But wear a hat and sunscreen and bring a jacket. It may be cool in San Francisco. You never know. It all changes. And the route is about 2 miles, a little less, but bring comfortable shoes, things like that. Just take care of yourself. What's that? And bring cash for buttons and for other things. All sorts of fun things to buy along the parade route. Some of the rules that we were sort of like, we had to change our name from Pete for America Bay Area to Bay Area supporters, South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg, because we are officially part of an elected official contingent, and the elected official doesn't have to be present, but it ensures that we get a better rate and we're in the upper half of the parade. So that's why we're there. So please don't wear anything that says vote for Pete. You can wear Pete shirts, they just can't say you vote for Pete. So it's not a big deal. And one of the things that we're going to do, and Natasha sent me an email saying, well, what if we get counter protesters, people that are saying, oh, Pete's a white man and all this stuff. We are going to adhere to Pete for America's rules of the road. They're really good rules of the road. They're basically agreed upon conduct. We're gonna have joy. And joy is one of the rules of the road. We're gonna have a good time, and we're not gonna take the low road. We're gonna be very dignified. If there's anyone that causes us disruption, myself and a few other lieutenants will take care of that situation.
Trust me, you will not have that at Pride.
Yeah, I don't think so.
It's a hometown crowd for him.
We hope it's.
Yeah, so I think the reason we brought that up is a couple folks were a bit concerned after the DC Pride Parade, shooting incident. And,
Oh, yeah.
I think just it would be good to maybe get a brief sort of see something, say something, or just what.
And that's why
Yeah.
why you should read. Even if you're not want to be a monitor, a safety monitor.
Yeah,
If-
this video right here, in fact, is from the sign up link.
It really,
yeah.
and there's a huge police presence at Pride because it's the largest event in Northern California, period, bar none. So except for when the Warriors win. But that's all right. One of the things that people are going to be asking us is for literature, we cannot give out campaign literature of any kind in the book. And so we don't, fortunately, our group doesn't have literature right now, so we didn't have nothing to hand out. But we can't pass out anything. So if people want to find out about Pete, just go, tell them your experience, tell them what's important to you.
People that much because you're going to be marching.
Moving
And
fast.
there'll be crowds along the side, and they'll be cheering. And you will have people on either side of your group running to the crowds, handing out stickers, but you won't have conversations with them.
And the last thing is, there is a sort of like a festival or fair at the Pride, at the end of the Pride Parade. It's in the Civic Center Plaza. Pete in our group was formed too late to actually get a booth at the Pride Parade. And we wish we could. We appealed. We didn't get it. So next year, when we're the
Have you
nominee.
been to Pride before? Get used to seeing naked men walking around completely naked. And women. True.
Well, top
Well,
is more.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's
That's part of the charm of it.
yeah, and it's actually a weird event in the sense that it attracts everyone. There's tourists, there's families, like schools march.
There's a lot of kids last year.
There's a lot of kids in the parade. So, and there's an occasional nude person or so. So just think of them as some Michelangelo
More than an
statue.
occasional.
Yeah.
More at the festival part.
Yes.
Right. But anyway, it's a really good time, and hopefully we're going to be really enthusiastic. We're gonna represent Pete well. We're not. We talked about actually doing something afterwards, but it's people tend to get lost afterwards going to the
When you get to
festival.
Civic Center, it's the festival, and you go do all the booths.
But one thing I can assure you, you will have a great time. You'll feel like so supported by the crowd. And that's why we ordered 25,000 stickers. We're just going to give as many stickers out as possible. And we want people to walk around with these stickers. They have the Pete logo and basically say, yeah, oh, wow, you're interested in Pete? It doesn't say I voted for Pete or I'm going to vote for Pete. It's just sort of getting people excited. And we think there's a good chance people are going to wear them and just have one more step towards Pete, which is what we're trying to do.
Okay, and transportation. So if you're coming from here, what would you recommend? So Embarcadero Station if you're coming by BART, and then so you get off there and then go towards where?
You just get out your phone and you're like about 3 blocks away from Main Street. I mean, it couldn't be
Okay.
closer. I think depending on how you look at map, I think you're going southwest and then you're right there. I mean, basically the top of the peninsula of San Francisco is like this. Main Street is a diagonal, and you're going to be getting off here and just walking down 2 or 3 blocks. And actually, if you're coming from Caltrans, it's even easier because you have like 3 or 4 blocks over, and you just come across. There's going to be a lot of people there. There always
I have a
is.
comment about the train.
Please.
There's a Giants game that day. Again. I think
really?
at 1 o'clock. Oh my God.
Oh, God.
Let me confirm, but it says Caltrain added 2 extra trains again this year, like they always do. and one leaves San Jose at Diridon at 8:09 and at 8:33. And I know it sounds really early, but it takes a while to get there, and then you gotta walk. So, but those are the extra trains. Then they have their normal Saturday trains as well. But I took the train last year, and it was full of Giants fans and Pride fans. So, but it was crowded. It was really crowded. By the time we got up to Mid Peninsula, it was full. So if you're gonna get on the Caltrain, get on here.
Yeah, the other trick is if you're, not that I want people to take a car, but if you decided to take a car, you come up through the south of the city, you go over to the Castro, you park your car there,
And then Uber over.
and then or either Uber over or you take the Muni underground all the way right downtown.
Actually,
it-
one thing I've
yeah.
done in the past is I've driven or gotten to Millbrae somehow and just taken BART from Millbrae
Oh,
because
there you
that's
go.
super
That's good.
convenient.
There you go.
Because there's tons and tons of parking in
Or Daly
Millbrae.
City Bar to sit
Yeah,
down.
these are great ideas. Yeah, so there's all sorts of.
That's what I did one year, Millbrae. BART gets really crowded though. Is there anywhere maybe in Daly City we can park and just
You can park at Daly City parking on the weekend.
the Daly
It's
City
great.
BART?
It's just, that is one of the smaller BART parking lots. So like during weekdays, you often can't get a spot there if you're there past 9.
Millbrae is a giant parking lot.
Yeah, Millbrae is much bigger.
Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
that's a great idea. Millbrae is-
All right, so Giants game's 105.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well,
so
it'll be
You're gonna see
what
a
it
lot of
is.
Orange.
like orange, I love rainbows.
Joe, if we could arrange some kind of shuttle that comes from South Bay, where do you think that shuttle could go to drop us off? Which is easy to get in and out that day.
That's a good question.
Because we could think of arranging for something if 44 people are coming from San Jose.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, where would you want them to drop you off? Because you might, it's hard to get close to the parade because there's so many people coming from all
Along
over.
those lines,
Leave
Patrick,
getting into the
your
city.
husband works for Google, right?
Yeah.
There is a Google employee deal on getting shuttles at an incredible rate off peak. I don't remember exactly the details. At least it was when I worked
on
there. Like, you
so
can,
on a
like,
Sunday you
You
can.
can hire the Google shuttles at a very reasonable
Oh,
price. At least they had that benefit 3 years ago. So I don't know.
and you have to be an employee of
You
Google to
have to
do
be
that.
employed.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
you may want to look at that.
Yeah, they might not do it for political campaigns, so, but check it out.
I'm
Or
not
just
sure.
pride, make
I
it
think
pride.
it's
Well,
just
we
the
can
employee
open
paying for
it-
like people use it for their weddings. Like you want to
Yeah.
shuttle to some winery in the hills sort of thing. So check, it may be gone. I don't know. I'm just saying
We can open it up to the Bernie guys. I don't care. Like that's fine. I think it's just we need to, but I would need to know where we can be dropped off because that's going to be a crazy day.
Yeah, I'd have to look at the map, and I'll just go online. We have internet access to it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
They
I'll
have
just,
to allow people to get to the Giants game, so we could get dropped off near the stadium and then just walk the rest of the way, which
Yeah.
is not far from the train station. So.
yeah, actually, really getting dropped off at Caltrains is probably about as good as anything.
And I would suggest planning to get there super early. Yeah. So that you're not stymied by delays. Plan to be there at 11. There's lots to look at. There is so much to look at.
Yeah,
The
and there's
costumes are amazing.
there's restaurants near there, and everything will be open.
Hyatt
So it'll be
Regency's across the
it's such a great experience. Everyone should do Beta Breakers. Everyone should do
Yes.
Pride once. It's just one of those things. Everyone should do Burning Man, but that's fine.
That's even harder to get to.
Yeah,
You
that's
can't take Caltrain.
Let's start in San Francisco.
On the
Hey.
other hand, parking.
Any other questions?
Okay. So we covered transportation, meeting spot, group picture.
We're gonna take pictures before the parade. We're gonna
Okay.
we're gonna definitely do that and be live tweeting the whole darn
Should we
thing.
maybe plan on doing a group picture at around 12:45?
Perfect. That's what we were
Yeah.
thinking. And we will probably make some announcements at 12:45 and then get ready to be put in the parade at 1. So
So then when we send out the emails next week, Joe, we have to say 12:45.
yeah, we are. We're gonna do that. We're actually
I think tell people get there at 12:30 and then you'll ensure that
I was
12:45.
actually thinking, that's what we were thinking, but now the more I think about we may ask people to get there like at 12:15 because
Yeah.
a lot of people are going to be late.
Because you never know the pace of the parade at that point. They may put you in early or you may be. I've done it so many times, and there are times where we're standing around, we're supposed to be going, and we're not, and then other times, whoops, we're a little early. Last year, they were pretty well on time.
And there's just a couple of other things you should be aware of. When you're marching on the parade, and the safety video covers this, there's metal grates, there's tracks, and I've fallen on these tracks, not when I'm marching, but when I've been riding a bike at various points in my life. So you have to be careful. We're not going to be dealing with rain. It's just
Like
wear.
you're carrying the banner and they say move this way.
Yeah, you
go
gotta.
that way.
I would just wear sort of like, tennis shoes, things like that, or hiking shoes, or things like that. So, but it's pretty straightforward. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and we're gonna do this in San Francisco. We're gonna do this in San Jose and other places. And one of the things we were talking about last night, Natasha, is like, it's the reason we brought Susan, our secret weapon, with us, is we're going to start doing tabling events and really start having a dialogue with voters. And we're recruiting supporters, we're looking for voters. And, what we're thinking about more and more is like, ideally, if we can attract enough people from various ethnic, racial, and other groups, actually go to, if there's a parade, go to that group and do tabling events and things like that. So again, we want to become really part of the community in the same way that the Bernie people have done a good job doing. So anyway, that's what we're thinking. Any questions? Yes.
Is there a limit to the number of people who can march? I mean, are we trying to get as many people as we can,
Well,
or is there a problem if there's?
I'm greedy like this, and I wanted to have 300 people, and we're gonna try to get to that number somehow. We're gonna promote the heck out of it. But we knew if the campaign sent out an email, we'd probably get over 500, which would make us one of the larger groups in the whole parade. But the parade, the campaign right now is saying that they can't send it out because we're on a non-campaign.
Could the mayor's office send it out? If we're supporters of Pete for mayor?
I like that sort of thinking.
The mayor is running for re-election and she will be in the parade with her own contingent.
No, I meant Mayor Pete.
Oh.
The mayor's Pete's office.
Here's the problem.
Oh, that's it.
Then they can't send out because they don't. The mayor's office doesn't have a list of Pete supporters there because they're different.
Okay, that makes sense.
But I appreciate the fresh thinking. We're like, well, we'll become part of the official campaign and we'll let them take it over. But there's probably a lot of problems. So anyway, we're going to be very happy with 200 people. If for some reason we were able to get more than that, great. But we're not counting.
Natasha?
Oh, 30, they buy their shirt from Amazon, and that's your.
So one thing about the shirts for Amazon, they're printed on demand. So order them as early as you can. It takes more than a week for them to get here.
Folks on the phone, just 1 second. We'll get to your question in just a second.
Okay, but
ordered last night, it's coming tomorrow. I paid a little extra.
yeah, so if you don't want to pay extra, then actually you don't want to risk not being able to get it for the parade. So I would really encourage people to get it.
I felt guilty buying it on Amazon, not for the campaign website, but you can't get it.
Yeah.
You guys are doing it, I'm doing it.
So there is we were when we registered, we had a match like we
Sure.
put down we were expecting about 300
Many of the
people.
designs are sold
So
out right now.
they
But Amazon.
place us in the parade accordingly. So
Sure,
if we
sounds good.
suddenly end up with like 1,000 people, that's going to be awkward. But if we have like
I don't know that
450,
many people.
if we have like 450, it shouldn't be.
I think we're going to be, if we were able to send out an email to the campaign, we're probably going to be at 200 or so.
Okay. Folks on the phone, please go ahead and speak up or type in your question.
Hi, this is Kevin Dowling from Hayward. I want to thank Joe for organizing this whole parade contingent and all his enthusiasm. But I need to correct one thing. We can't meet at an ATM. We need to meet on the street and line up. The video shows it really clear. So we'll be on Main Street between Market and Mission. Find our group. We can't meet at some ATM. We got to be ready to march when the parade's ready for us.
That's why Kevin is our contingent safety monitor
So-
chief. Yeah, and you're going to be able to see us. We're going to have this bright royal blue. There's going to be a little sea of royal blue. And we're going to have flags, and you won't be able to miss us.
Sure, but Kevin, could you also comment on a possible landmark people can put in their phone if they're getting off the train station and they need to walk towards where we are? I understand you're probably gonna see a group of people, but just so that people can plan accordingly for those of us that aren't familiar with the city.
I can scope it out on the weekend. I'll be there over the weekend and send out information on that.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
Let me make one. I would advise people not to get on Caltrain or just take Caltrain to Millbrae. BART goes right to Market Street, and you get off and you're right there. You don't have to walk at all. I would recommend the Colma station is ginormous. They have a huge parking lot there. It's always empty. So if you drive and take 280 to Colma Street BART station, always parking there.
San Francisco, basically.
Yeah, always parking.
Do that. Yeah, and forget the bus. Just go straight up.
Yeah.
Or take a bus, take a shuttle to Colma Station. You know that.
Sure.
It's more environmentally friendly than like 45 minutes.
Okay, that's a great idea. Colma Station. We'll note that down. Okay,
Any other questions or comments?
any other questions or comments on the phone?
Decided to go ahead and stuff it out.
Alrighty. All right, well, thank you very much. As Pete says, do something, anything, and, in the political process, be an active vote, and we're going to march and be an active vote. So, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joe. Incredible effort it's taken on the part of the whole Pride Planning Committee. I know Renee has been participating in that. She's been doing the work on the banner and just a whole bunch of planning. We have Kevin on the line. And I'm sure I'm missing a few people, but thank you so much. And I think that this really does go a long way in getting the grassroots momentum going. And so I just want to, before we go into the canvassing exercise, just a quick update on our debate watch party. So we have secured a venue in downtown San Jose. We are booking out the Inca Azteca restaurant and bar. It is a delicious Peruvian restaurant, and it's got a huge screen TV and surround sound, and it's got seating all over the place. So bring the kids, bring your family, bring your friends. If they are supporting other people on the debate stage, we've kept it open to the public, and we've opened it up to other advocacy groups as well. So it's not supposed to be a partisan kind of thing. We need volunteers to man the sign-up station. We will also need to have stickers and some small giveaways. So either shoot me a message or come see me after if you're interested in getting involved with that. The other thing is, please do not bring outside food to this venue. The owner very graciously offered to complimentary sponsor this whole event for us. I believe they're a new business in the neighborhood, so they would really appreciate if we dine at their place. And I believe the food is excellent over there. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to invite Susan to start our canvassing session.
You would do me a favor. You take one of these and pass it down, the same with these. And I hope you don't mind that I'm inviting a special guest to join us.
All right.
He said he could make it tonight. So what I'm going to do is walk you through this as succinctly as I can. And this is sort of a bare bones, but I created this for the Obama campaign back in 2008 to help others learn what I had learned sort of the hard way. So the stapled sheet is called visibility. And what is it? If anyone here in marketing or advertising? That's what this is. It's visibility. It's letting people know you exist. that there's a chapter, there's a team in your area. So why do you do it? Let people know you exist. It allows you to have a one-on-one conversation, to sign up new volunteers, to get information out about Pete. Tabling is a verb, to table. And that means setting up an ironing board or a folding table in various places. And you can, I always do voter registration. Anytime you table, it's a must. It gives you legitimacy and you're doing a favor for people. There's various ways you can do the signage. You can have a Pete sign hanging from here. I usually do multiple ironing boards. I'll either do 2 across or a V shape. And I will have one of these in it or one of these hanging down, and then I'll have the candidate signs on so that people know what you're doing and why you're there. So voter registration, candidate advocacy, issue advocacy, petitions, you can use the same format for a lot of different things. Also, walking around with a clipboard. If you're at a farmer's market, depends on, and we'll go through the rules there, depends on their rules, but sometimes you can walk around with clipboards and my clipboard is back here. Always have a sign on the back of your clipboard. This is one I've been using for naturalization ceremonies. So it has senior citizens registered to vote. You can just have a register to vote sign, something like that. So you've always got your signage. So you don't have to always be yelling at people. They know what you're doing. And you can, if you're at a fair or festival, if they allow it, you can walk around with one of these and register people to vote. And do you know what canvassing is? It's going door to door, knocking on doors. It's another form of visibility. So now we get into tabling. Here's some of the rules. Look for busy retail areas. If there's a strip mall or retail street that has a lot of stores, look for a corner. Farmers markets are my go-to. They're the easiest ones. Fairs and festivals or the outside entrance to a popular indoor event. Retail areas, there are some rules, and those are further down here. For instance, and it's the kind of thing you don't think about when you're doing it, but do not block visibility of a retail store window. They will not like that. So if you set up in front of a store window, the merchant's going to come out and shoo you away. Also, the curb cuts for disability access, don't block those either. It makes it a little bit more challenging these days to find the right place if it's a retail area, but you can. And look for a sidewalk that's deep enough so that you're not impeding foot traffic, wheelchairs, walkers, that sort of thing. Several of the reasons I switched to ironing boards were, first of all, they are higher than most of the card tables or tables like that. The Costco 4-foot and 6-foot tables, particularly the 4-foot ones, now ratchet up to this height. They didn't used to. And I discovered at the Ferry Building years ago that I was using the Costco tables that just had the one height. And I saw people getting petitions signed for a ballot initiative. And they were more visible because they were using an ironing board that was up higher. They're also lighter weight. For someone who's short, they're easier to carry. And you can mix and match. You can create, I've been at the Ferry Building where I had 2 across and 2 this way and created my own booth, so to speak. So it just depends on the location where you're going. You can mix and match and what you're willing to have in your arsenal. I have 6 ironing boards because I do the naturalization ceremony in Oakland every month and I use them for that. So I have them to go by. So where was I? So this is a system I created. You can get these dowels at Home Depot. They're the 5/16 inch. The Pete signs laminate everything. These are a little bit larger than the 11x17 laminating sleeves. So I cut these down a little bit at FedEx yesterday. I just trimmed them so I can laminate them this way. So you could put this on here and just get the rolls of tape and turn this over and just tape them this way. They're two-sided. So you've got instant signage, and it takes a little bit of doing to figure out which holes they go in. And sometimes I'm better at it than others. So they don't splay out this way. And you've got your instant signage. And I like that it's quick and easy.
Where did you get this Pete sign? Was that a?
On his website.
Okay.
But I bought 5 of them. They're a little bit pricey, but that's why I say laminate everything because you can reuse them. You can tape them to things and take the tape off. And don't put the tape on the original because you'll take the paint off.
Now, Joe, another alternative to buying them off the website, which our group is doing, is Lisa and Courtney are actually mass printing these lawn signs using the design studio. So I don't know if you've got somebody on your team who's maybe
Great.
Shreyas, or I don't know, one of those folks can maybe chip in to sort of take the same. It's basically you're taking the same, icon of
I
the
forget that
design
they've given
toolkit.
permission to do that.
Yeah,
which is
yeah. So
fantastic.
that's what we're doing. We're going with another, cheaper mass producer and getting like 1,000 of these printed.
Now,
So
we are going over
Let's
this.
talk about that later, just how expensive they are. 'cause
See,
Yeah,
see
yeah.
this right down here? That's a union bug, and it's really important if you can to get a union printer and have a union bug put on that.
okay.
In Democratic politics, they are very insistent on union printers. Can be a little bit more expensive, but it makes them happy, and because we support unions, and we want them to have business. Also, if you're having these made, do what's called tabloid size or 11 by 17, because FedEx has self-service lamination. I'm going to tell you a secret. I'm going to confess to a crime. I've been doing it for years, and I think they know it. Most of the FedEx offices, anyone here work for FedEx? They have them near the back of the store in their self-service. There is a price list, and I think it's like $5 for this size. But I just do it and walk out, and they don't notice. And I tried in the beginning, I would stand in line to pay, and there'd be 3 people ahead of me in line ordering big projects, and I'd be standing there, and finally, screw it. And I think it's a loss leader for them. I think they know it, because I go into the one near me all the time, and they've never said anything. So if you find, I'm just telling you the secret, and I think I'm not the only one. Because once you've laminated them, then you've got permanent signs. So, okay. So we've got fairs and festivals, and you can also bootleg. It depends, you gotta know the festival. For instance, Carnival in San Francisco, you can't bootleg, I've tried it. They will find you and tell you you can't be there. I set up for Hillary on the corner, and we would have been okay, but we did too elaborate a setup, and they came through, because that's how they pay for their festival, with the people paid for booths. So it just depends on the event. But if you think you can just find a corner within the festival or fair, you could do it that way. And be prepared to be told to leave if you can't. Just be ready to move. So the rules for outdoor events: be respectful to the event organizers. And if they ask you to leave, negotiate with them. Don't get mad at them. Say, oh, gee, we didn't know. Is there anything we can do? Is there somewhere we can go? Is it too elaborate a setup? Can we tear it down? And so if they're supporters, they may say, okay. Do not block the sidewalk. Don't block the store entrances. And always have voter registration forms with you. Now, if I'm going to a farmer's market and I want to look for the free speech area, I will tell them I'm there to register voters. I'll also tell them it's for a campaign or a candidate, but registering voters is the #1 thing that gets you access in there. Most of them don't mind if you're doing a candidate, but the voter registration is what they want to be open to. So now, a farmer's market or a retail area. I call myself the queen of logistics, and that is figure out the traffic flow so you'll know where to set up. also is, and see which has the most people, what hours. I'm always looking for, okay, I got to drop off my supplies. Where do I go park? And have a partner meet you there or go with you so that if you need to drop off, they can be starting the setup or watching the stuff while you go and park. Those are the little things that can trip you up. Know the start time, plan to set up early so that you're ready before the event starts. Like if a farmer's market is noon to like 8 to noon, be there at 7 or even a little earlier to get set up so that you're ready. Learn what public transit goes by there so you can tell your volunteers. And it's possible that you could have people bring your materials in public transit if you don't want to drive. Arrive early so you have adequate time and schedule one volunteer at least to be there when you drop off. This reminds me of my rules too. Learn which ones, for instance, my favorite farmers market for me, because it's the easiest, is in San Francisco at Stonestown Mall. They don't allow ironing boards. You have to have a table. And it was years ago, the mall decided ironing boards were not upscale enough for them, and so they required a table.
So I was gonna, on that question, I was gonna ask you, do we need to have a 501c ID present to iron board?
Yeah. Okay. It's just that one, I remember when they changed the rules. I think it's a little bit more than that.
I see.
So most of them will let you do an ironing board, but it's good to check. Now with farmers markets, I know there's a website in San Francisco where you can get a list of all of them. There probably is in this area as well, so that you can find out what the rules are. For instance, some of them you have to submit a form or a request ahead of time to do it because they may only have a certain amount of space, and if there are a lot of people wanting to use it, they need to know you're coming. Others, you can just show up. Some of them will say, just show up and we'll fit you in between the cherries and the asparagus, so to speak. We'll find a space for you. Others have a prescribed free speech area, but they're usually within the market. Anyone here from San Mateo? You are.
The county, not the city.
There's a great one at the College of San Mateo. It's another one where you can park on site and unload at your convenience. And their free speech area is in a great spot. They have these four rows, and it's at the head of one of them. And right down here is the guy that sells sweet corn, and it's the most popular booth there. Line up, and they're lined up right past your booth if you get there early enough and get the right spot. So you're very visible. And bring a friend with you, because although I haven't tried it with Pete, and I don't know what the reaction will be, because we are in a competitive world. But if people are fans, they're going to want to come take a picture. And it's what's going to
I want to take a picture right now.
It's a hook. I know when I do the naturalization ceremony in Oakland, I still bring the Obama cutouts because he's still my president. And it's a magnet. They want to take the picture. I did it for Hillary, and it would be the same way. So we're going to find out how this works.
And even, just to add to what you said, and we saw this over our flyer walk of the weekend, even if you have like 2-3 friends with you that are wearing the Pete shirt, people were like stopping us just to take pictures with volunteers. We happen to be the only group there at the San Mateo Pride Parade. So,
fantastic. And wear your shirts. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes there's just strength in showing that unity in a group, with everybody wearing the same color.
I'm going to run get this. Now, people are going to ask, how do I pay for all this stuff? The ironing boards and all the materials. So this is a sample. Anyone buy the things of mixed nuts at Costco? But this was in its former life. And it takes someone with a little strength and a blade, and you cut up a slot in it. And then you put bumper stickers around it, and you have your tip jar. And because this is not an official campaign event, so I always have one of those stand-up signs that says suggested costs or suggested prices if you have bumper stickers or buttons. And those are really a good idea to have. I just bought a bag of 25 assorted buttons this was one of them from Amazon. It's however, I think you're getting a whole bunch of them.
300.
So that would be fantastic. And if you can get the price down and ask $1 for them, you could ask $2, but put suggested prices $1, and then below that, in smaller but very readable letters, donations help local volunteers cover out-of-pocket costs. So you're making it clear the money they put in the tip jar does not go to the campaign, but depending on how people feel about your being there, you may say suggested donation $1, and they could put in a 5 or a 20 and say, no, keep the change. Thank you for being here. So depending, we haven't tried it yet. So, and we're in a different world with 23 candidates, but depending on where you are in the response, you can collect some money at the tabling, and that goes towards helping you defray your costs. And it gets the buttons out there, bumper stickers, or whatever you have, and people want stuff. One of my favorites is the Ferry Building in San Francisco. It's mostly tourists, but they'll say, oh, I can't get this back home. I live in Georgia and I can't get these. I want 5 of them. So you may get a good response with that. Let's see, have clipboards like this. And have any of you done voter registration before? Quick tutorial. They have new forms that are long. I don't like them, but it's the Secretary of State redesigned them. And I think most of you have ones that are highlighted. Is there a yellow highlighter on there? So if you get a highlighted one, then you copy it. Now in Northern California, in our area, they're fine if you highlight. In some areas that are much more conservative, the registrar of voters may say you can't. It is legal. We checked with the Secretary of State's office. But in Modesto, Fresno area, they'll say, no, we won't accept those. So, but the reason it's helpful for you, it's also helpful for the voter. What we do is we give them the clipboard with the registration form and say, fill out the yellow areas or fill out the orange areas, whatever the highlighter color is. And then it's pretty self-explanatory. The new forms are pretty easy. Most important question on here, are you a US citizen and a resident of California? I am over 18 years old. Those two have to be answered. Then you get to their name, and they put the address down in number 4, which I don't know why they moved that, but number 3, date of birth, important. Then we get to California driver's license, and this is and/or the Social Security, the last 4 digits of the Social Security. It doesn't say that on here, but legally it's either the driver's license or the state issued ID or the last 4 digits of the Social Security. The driver's license or state issued ID is preferable because there has to be a signature on the registration form, and they go through the DMV, and your signature is on file at the DMV. So it's easiest if you do it that way. If they don't have a driver's license, they can use the last 4 digits of their Social Security. If you try to do it online, you have to have a driver's license because of the DMV. Most people do, but there are some people who don't, or don't have the state issued ID that's the equivalent. Now, US state or foreign country of birth. In this case, most people will be the state. When I do naturalization ceremonies, I love that it's what country they were born in. But it's not the city, it's the state, and it's important that they get that filled out. And then their home address. And then we generally skip down to number 7. Number 5 is if they have a different address where they receive mail, like a PO box, which most people don't, but that's what it's for. Number 6, they moved that from the bottom up here. If they've been registered to vote someplace else and they just need to re-register, it's helpful if they put that information on there, if they remember the street name or the address. And it's just so they can be taken off the voter rolls in their old precinct. It's not required, but how many here vote in person? So you know when you go into your precinct and they have that huge printout and you have to sign it. There's a lot of people in there who are no longer in that precinct. They just have not notified them. So it helps clean that up a bit. But again, it's not required. Number 7 is vote by mail. Anyone here vote? You vote in person, right? Rest vote by mail? Okay. So that's your choice if you want to vote by mail, yes or no. Now, number 8 is the fun one. Who here knows what the American Independent Party is?
You do.
You do?
I think
Okay.
so.
Any of you remember who George Wallace was? Former governor of Alabama and a very proud segregationist.
I grew up in
He
Alabama.
ran for president in 1968, and it was a third-party campaign. And the political party that was created for that run was called the American Independent Party. They're still around. They're still racist. We just can't say that in public. But many people think, oh, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, I want to be an independent, because they've heard people saying that. And when they get to this section, they think that's what that means, and they'll check it. So you check this over after they've filled it out. And if you see that, you can say, were you trying to call yourself an independent? And if they say yes, we explain that that is an established political party. It's pretty conservative. That's your choice, that's fine. But if you just want to call yourself an independent, you go down to the bottom where it says, I do not want to choose a political party, and check down there.
Here's a good question. How do you deal with, if someone's filling out 10, how do you deal with mistakes of any sort?
You just cross out the check mark and initial it.
Okay.
So if they checked American Independent Party and you catch that, they can put a bigger cross out there.
If they start to write their city versus their state of birth above, they say they cross out, write the state initial.
These are input by human beings into the database. The change in political party from American Independent to I don't want to declare a party is the most common change, and the registrars know immediately what that means. So it's pretty easy.
Why not? What's piece 3?
Yeah.
Just with regard to the primaries in particular, especially if you vote by mail, if the person chooses vote by mail and you're registering them at a PEAT-based event, please make sure that they understand that if they don't pick Democratic Party, they will not get a Democratic ballot for the primary if they're voting by mail. So in order to vote for PEAT in the primary, you have to check Democratic Party if you're voting by
getting
mail.
to that because the fastest growing party in California is the no party preferences, which is the shorthand for I don't want to choose a political party. And any other year, it's not an issue because we have the top 2 primary system. But presidential primaries are different because it's a federal election and it's the property of the political party and they get to choose. And in 2016, there were 3 parties that allowed independents to vote in their primary. Democrats, American Independent Party did allow, and there was a third, and I can't remember which one that was. I just got that yesterday. But you can only do it if you vote in person. For instance, if you're registered as no party preference and you go into your polling place, you could ask for a Democratic ballot. It's called a crossover ballot, and you can cast that ballot. But you have to be doing it in person. If you vote by mail and they mail you a ballot that doesn't have presidential on it, because for the primary, if you have not declared a party, they don't know which ballot to send you. So you will get one that doesn't have the presidential candidates on it. You can go to City Hall or wherever your early voting is and surrender your ballot and get one for the party you want, or re-register when you get there. But it's important to get all that early. So yes, that's very important. Email and phone number we try to collect. It's optional. We generally explain that in case they have any questions when they enter your information in the database, they can contact you. And I've been at naturalization ceremonies where we're going through these and someone forgot to put their country of birth or something like that. And if their phone number's on there, we'll call them on the spot, and they're probably not far away, and they'll give us that information. Or the registrar can contact them that way as well. It's also how we text them and phone bank them later on. We just don't say that, but it is helpful if they have that information. And then you get down to number 10, they sign it and date it. And then these, that's why I don't like these, have this tiny little stub on it that's perforated. You tear that off and give it to the voter, and you'll notice in the lower left-hand corner at the very bottom is a red number. In the lower right-hand part of the main ballot is that same number in red. That becomes their voter ID number. And so if they vote by mail, for instance, when the ballot is sent to them, it's tied to that number. And that ballot has to be turned in. If you go into a polling place and say, you know, I vote by mail, but I lost my ballot, I can't find it, they'll give you a new one, but it'll be a provisional ballot because they have to wait until all the ballots come in. Then they make sure the one they mailed you is not used, because that way you'd be trying to vote twice. So it's okay to do that, but try to keep your ballot if possible, and use the one that was mailed to you. You can drop it off at your polling place on election day if you haven't. So any questions on this? And if you want to keep these and use them as your training guide, yeah.
What about this whole section? Did someone help you fill out or deliver this form?
What?
The section that says, did someone help you fill out or deliver this form?
Okay, the reason I give it to the voter and ask them to fill it out, and then I check it over. And that way I don't have to do that. It says if they delivered it for you, but in the Bay Area, the registrars are pretty lenient with that. In Fresno, they have a stamp. The Democratic Party does a lot of this, and they have to stamp it for everyone because the registrar is very rigid there because they don't like Democrats. And we beat them last time. Yeah.
You mentioned using the phone number for phone banking and such. So you collect the forms and then you harvest the phone numbers yourselves before
They're
you
put
turn it
into
in?
the Secretary of State's database of
I see.
registered voters. And that's the database that the campaigns will use, particularly if you mark Democrat. So if we're phone banking for Pete, and they pull a list of registered Democrats in a certain geographic area, that's where they get the phone number.
I see.
Is from that. To text, if it's new voters generally put in cell phone numbers. Older voters may still have a landline on there. I keep my landline online so I can filter the calls that way and just not answer the phone.
So then when we're tabling for anything, for a farmer's market or something, in addition to the registration forms, we should have a separate form that they also provide their name and phone number and email, so that we, for instance, if we want to build a database of Pete supporters.
Yes.
Okay.
Circling back from the voter registration back to your tabling.
So I had one other question.
Yeah.
Do we, is it a best practice for us to keep these?
Good question, Joe. So generally, you need to turn these in 72 hours after they've been filled out. So you can go to your local registrar of voters and ask for voter registration forms. They will ask you what language you want them in. This one here is bilingual. They're all English bilingual, bilingual Chinese, bilingual Spanish, bilingual Tagalog, or Vietnamese, whatever language you want, or just straight English. You can get a combination of them if you like, to make it easier. So once they're filled out, they do turn them back in within 72 hours to the registrar's office. You check that. The main thing is check them over when they hand it back to you to make sure you got all the information correct on it, which is where the highlighting helps not only them, but you, so you know what to check for.
So
and then you turn them back in.
You don't mail these back.
You can, but it depends on, if you get 4 or 5, you can mail them. In Oakland for the naturalization, we'll get 200, and so we turn them in that way. The new ones, evidently what they want is you turn it into a trifold. This is the self-mailing side. No postage needed. So then you fold it, trifold, you take the stub off and do a trifold this way, and then Scotch tape it and put it in the mailbox.
And so
that way.
You take it back. You don't trust them to.
Right, right.
Okay.
And generally, and when you get these from the registrar's office, you have to fill out a form. and they'll give you a starting and ending number of the red numbers. They'll start with this number, and then up to, if you get 25 of them, it'll count to the next 25. And the same way, depending on the languages you get. You might, if you get 3 languages, you'll have a start and ending number of all 3 languages. And so that you will be responsible for the forms in that number spread. They'll ask who you're with, and they may want to make sure that they give you a training, which is fine. Some are more forgiving than others on that, but it's not bad for them to give you a training as well. And then you can either put them in the mail or drop them back, depending on convenience for you. Any more questions on this? Yeah.
Online registration.
Yes, you can do registertovote.ca.gov.
Do you ever go out there with like
and you
a
can
laptop or anything for them to use, or they're not, most people don't feel comfortable typing? Like, do you bring like an iPad?
No. You just, people can do it at home.
Okay.
And a lot of them will prefer to do that. Just make sure that they have a driver's license or the state issued ID. If not, the state will mail them this form, which kind of defeats the purpose. But yes, they can do it online. And some people will say, oh, I'm in a hurry, can I take it home? We tend not to do that because 90% of the ones taken home are never turned in. And then they don't come down on you if there's gaps in that number sequence, but if they see a lot of that, then they'll know. And the other reason for the number sequence, and you sign them out, is that they start seeing a number of them come in with errors, and they'll look to see who checked out those numbers. So it's a responsibility, but it's not
When we
hard.
go and ask for them, like, how many can we ask for? How many can we ask for?
They may question the number, but however many you want.
Okay, we don't, because their website says something about like above a certain number, you need to do a training or something like that.
They may want to do a training with you, but it doesn't take that long. They'll do it right there on the spot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they'll give you brochures also with the training.
So Susan, as a grassroots entity that we are, any sort of formal filing we have to do with the state to be able to go out and register? Okay,
Not at all.
So basically we're free to hand these out and register people as is. Okay.
And this is something that I created, and I have the PDF, or it's actually a Word doc that I can share. I just updated it and made this part larger. These are the reasons people need to register to vote, and you would be surprised how many don't realize it. Have they moved since the last time they voted? They may be in a different precinct, and they need to re-register. Are they new in town? If they just moved to San Jose or your area? And most people, when they arrive in town, they don't know where to register to vote. It's not the norm that they would automatically know where to go. You can go to a post office or a library, but there's no one there to check your form for you. So and I've often been at a farmer's market, which is my favorite, and had people walk up and say, oh God, I moved 6 months ago. I need to register to vote. I didn't think of that. Or I just moved to this city I just moved to San Francisco from San Jose. I need to register to vote. If they're turning 18, now these forms have a third designation. Under Section 1, you have to declare you're a US citizen and that you're over 18. If you're 16, 15 or 16 and you want to pre-register, you can fill out the
16
form.
or 17.
And that means that it goes in the system because you have to put your birth date on there, and on your birth date, you should automatically be registered to vote. There's a couple of hitches because we all got very excited about registering 15 and 16-year-olds. Tell me a 15 or 16-year-old that has a driver's license or knows the last 4 digits of their social security. We'll catch that. Now, if they're with their parents.
Driver's license.
Pardon?
As a parent of 2 of them, they'll have a driver's license.
If they're with their parents, the parents might know it.
No, but they'll have their driver's license.
Oh, some kids aren't even getting.
How many 15 and 16-year-olds do you know who drive?
I
It's
know
actually
2 who live in my
16 or
household.
17.
Okay,
So,
and they could.
Really? The kids these days like to take Uber everywhere though. They don't
I
like
think
to drive.
that's more of a city thing than down here because just
Yeah,
at
in
some
San
point,
Francisco,
parents will
very
complain
few
about the
drive.
cost.
I know I didn't know my social when I was 16.
Yeah, no, they don't have
Yeah.
their social.
Susan,
So, but
it's-
if they have a driver's license,
I
they have it
maybe
mentioned, then that's
18.
perfect.
Maybe 18, some really responsible ones. I don't
Yeah.
think it's 16.
That,
They would
we
know.
all were racing to the high schools to pre-register until we realized they have to we have to let them know a day or two ahead so they
So
can get that information.
Susan, it's actually 16 or 17. It's not 15 or 16.
Yeah, 15-year-olds wouldn't have a
Yes,
driver's
it is.
license.
Thank you.
16, 17-year-olds, they may if they.
Absolutely.
And Susan, with the new thing where you move, you're supposed to notify the DMV in 10 days. That's always been there. But
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
when you move addresses, you're supposed to notify the DMV within 10 days.
You're supposed to, but many people don't.
They don't. But when you do go online and do that, now they ask you if you want to register to vote, right?
Yes.
So what happens if someone forgets they've done that and then they fill out
It
one of
doesn't
these?
hurt. You can register several times.
So if
Yeah.
someone says, I'm not sure, I said, why don't you just,
Yeah, it doesn't hurt.
Okay.
Yeah. And many people, like I said, we're still on here, turning 18. What if nowadays it's not as common, but they got married and changed their name, or got divorced and changed their name back? They may want to re-register. Have they become a citizen recently and they didn't get a chance to do it at their swearing-in ceremony? And there is one in the South Bay, and I'm trying to get more information on it. In 2016, I sent some volunteers from the Hillary campaign down here, and evidently the League of Women Voters felt they owned it and wouldn't let them, and I think the volunteers got scared off, but I'm trying to get more information on that. It's a gold mine for registering new citizens. And then what if they decide, I want to change, I want to become a Democrat? I voted for Trump, I've been a Republican all my life, and I can't stand him, and I need to become a Democrat. You got to fill out the form again if you want to change your party. So that's why, and I found if I have a sign like this at the tables, the people will walk up and go, oh my gosh, I need to register to vote, and I didn't know it. So it's informational. I also have some clipboard signs that are similar to this, but a little bit smaller.
how do you show, create legitimacy? Because, I tend to look at these things as like, they're trying to get on a ballot, or, the people that are trying to register people on a ballot or an initiative.
Ballot initiatives, don't
So
do
how
it
do
with them.
how do you like present yourself that you look like you're not one of those people?
You will, if somebody walks up to you with a clipboard filled with ballot initiative petitions, stand clear.
Right.
Because they will tell you it's for this issue, you sign it, and then they give you 3 more on top of that. And they will register you to vote, it's legit. But they're paid to gather signatures for ballot initiatives, and they drive me nuts. And if you're at a farmer's market, they may be kind of standing near you because they see you drawing people over. You can't do anything about that.
And do you like dress a certain way?
Wear your peach shirts.
Yeah, okay.
Just find out the rules of the farmer's market. If they require a form to be submitted or an email or something like that, do that. And you just triggered something else. When you arrive, every farmer's market has an information booth. It's the organization that puts it on. Go up to the information booth if you haven't been there before, particularly if you sent the form, have a copy of it. And, or if not, just, bring it with you and say you signed up to, for the free speech area, where is that? And go early, because the person may not be at the info booth when you go. He may be helping merchants set up. So it may take a little time. Now, if it's a walk up, let me back up. I do a scouting trip. If there's a farmer's market that I want to table at, I'll go a week before or 2 weeks before. I'll go to the farmer's market, I'll go to the info booth, identify myself, tell them that I do a lot of voter registration. I'm also campaigning for Pete Buttigieg. What are your rules for your free speech area? And they will tell you if there's a form you have to fill out, or we'll put you between the vegetables. And there's some that will do that, just show up. But let them tell you what their rules are. And then when you get there, check in, because some of them will have a prescribed area, others, the one at Stonestown, changes it periodically. So it just lets them know you're there, and they'll tell you where to set up. Most of them, it's a decent location. If they give you a hassle, just kind of wing it and maybe downsize to voter registration and play it by ear. But most of them, I've not had anyone turn me away with a candidate. But like I said, this is your card to get in, that you're doing that. Something that I want help with, oh, here's a list of supplies that you need. Let's back up. So you want to recruit, you want to do this because you want people to know that there's a Pete Buttigieg team in town. So if people come up to you and say, oh, I love Mayor Pete, I didn't know there were volunteers around, have a sign-in sheet or sign-up sheet and get their email and phone number. And as the ones I make, I didn't bring any tonight, but I always say, please print clearly so I can read it. And you get that, you can database that, and that begins to build your volunteer base and talk to them about the kinds of things that the volunteers are doing. Then you're building your base so that when you decide to table, you can email the volunteers and see who wants to come do it with you, because you need some volunteers. You need about 2 people per shift, and maybe a 2-hour shift. I'm getting a call. Let me just. So I'm going to ignore it.
Anti-Pelosi.
I wear high-tech hearing aids, which is why sometimes I have trouble hearing, and the phone calls go through my hearing aids. So I know when the phone's ringing and you don't. So you can send out an email to your list of volunteers and set up shifts. And it depends on the event. I usually like at least 2 people per shift. And if you have a volunteer coordinator, your teams are going to start adding some of these different designations, a volunteer coordinator, an event coordinator. Be clear, let them know what times, be clear about where to meet and how to find you. And when the volunteers arrive, do an orientation with them. You may need to show them voter registration, show them the form and walk them through it. And you can become the expert on it, and then they can, often I'll ask the volunteers if they do a voter registration, let me see it before you let the voter go. And then they'll begin to get the idea themselves. I just worry about a form being turned in that's missing something.
So guys, we will be, Lisa's on this project for our team to make videos for doing this kind of training. We're going to be filming a lot of this, tutorial for the volunteers, publishing it on the YouTube channel. So we'll cross-publish, of course, with San Francisco and with the Pete Network. So stay tuned for that. She's currently working on that. We're going to, if you don't mind, we've recorded your session. We're going to be, using a lot of that footage for training the volunteers.
And I could do another one with a little bit better setup if you want, but.
Oh, and hey, we can even come to closer to where you are.
Yeah,
to film
I want to start doing some in San Francisco.
Okay.
Soon.
Okay.
So, and a live one is always more fun.
Yes.
Than this. But then have clipboards, have pens, the voter registration forms, signs for the back of the clipboards.
Retractable blade, are you expecting trouble? Or
what?
Why do you have retractable blade on here?
What is that?
You said retractable bit. Oh, it's maybe for the boxes to open them.
Ah, okay.
T-shirts,
oh, yes.
No rumbles with Bernie supporters.
I used to do events for a living. And so I always have the rolls, the scotch, and then the red dispensers. Yeah, that goes with them. And I always have a small retractable blade because if you need to cut the tape off something, for instance, these are wonderful, but they're cardboard and they can get damaged easily. I will put a strip of cellophane tape on the back because that's like lamination. And then I can tape it to the ironing board so the wind doesn't blow it over. They can get bent when people get overly enthusiastic and want to stand next to them. I have a bunch of Obamas. There was an Obama in my living room that got too fragile to stand up outside in 2012. And I put him in my living room window and thought it'll just be through the election. He's still there. He's actually my home security system. When I drive in my garage, it looks like there's a man standing in the window. I met Obama on a rope line a few years later and told him that. but they can get a little bit wobbly. So I actually at Home Depot, I get a couple of extras of these dowels, and then you can tape them along the back if they get wobbly to shore them up.
How did you get this made, by the way? Did you...
It's the piece back there that I took it out of. The name of the company's on there. I just did a Google search for Pete Buttigieg cutouts, and there is one company that makes them, and I'm happy to share that. I have another one coming tomorrow.
It's all online.
It's just the tools that it makes it more fun.
No, I think that's a great idea to have that at tabling events. I could
People will walk over and say, "Oh, I love Pete. Can I take a picture with them?" Sure. You want to get? We've got a volunteer team. You want to get involved, and then you can talk about the things that you do. Something that and string. These just the rubber bands, tape. This is just the general toolbox that I tend to carry. Oh, tip jar. We talked about that, and bumper stickers. This still has the Obama cutouts, I should say, the Pete. And then remember to smile.
Susan, can you talk about how a tip jar fuels your campaign? Your local
Right,
campaign?
that was the sign that I suggested you put up, and I get one of those plastic sign holders that says the suggested donations, and that the donations help the local volunteers cover out-of-pocket costs. And anytime you can get merchandise at bulk costs, for instance, buttons or bumper stickers, depending on where you get them. And there are some online places that will make buttons for campaigns that are similar to the official ones. And if you buy them in bulk, if you get 1,000 or more, you can get the price down to like 30 cents a button. And then you can really bring in some profits that covers your cost. So then you're going to want to, on the sign-up sheet, I recommend, I haven't done one for this yet, name, email, phone, and then have some boxes for the types of activities they may be interested in. You interested in phone banking, in volunteer coordinator, that sort of thing. I'm not sure if the Pete campaign is going to canvass or not. I know someone that has been interviewing with them for a job, and they were told they may not be canvassing in California. They may be phone banking and text banking is a new thing, and that's something else. I can't guarantee that information, but it was curious to me. So then that way you can database them by the types of things that they want to do, and you build your team that way. So the one last thing that I want to try and get done is, you said somebody had started on a trifold.
Yeah.
If someone can create a trifold with a short blurb on the different issues from his website. I printed them all out, but it's like a lot of them. So because people are going to come out and say, well, what's his position on this or that issue? You want to have the material available. Nothing more than a half sheet. A trifold is even another way, or you could even accordion out more, because people won't take a full sheet of paper. You hand them an 8.5 by 11 and they're going to go, no, I'm not that interested. I just wanted to know what's his position on this or that. But if you have a short synopsis that you can give them, that helps. They might say, oh, I like that. I'm interested. It also means you don't have to be an expert on everything. So having merchandise, having the issue papers or positions makes you full service. Trying to think if there's anything else.
So, a good example of the trifold spread out that you were just talking about is Wisconsin for Pete did an excellent one for their delegate convention. While we were having KDM, they had theirs. I really encourage everybody to check that one out because they had a really full stack booth with the trifold, the policy flyers and very simple, like literally just 2 sentences for each one. And it was the top 5 stuff people are talking about. It was
Perfect.
Medicare for all, Green New Deal, immigration, and I think something about the tariffs on there as well. So
would they share that?
Yeah, we can.
Because I'm not the best at graphics and techie stuff.
Yeah,
So
I know
I've
the
been looking for
organizers.
someone
so-
to do that.
Okay, yeah, we'll take an action item to reach out to them.
And I have the feeling that the Pete groups are very good about sharing.
Yeah, they are.
They're not proprietary, and maybe we can share something back in
Yeah.
return. But that's fantastic, because you will get asked. And last night at Joe's meeting, someone who has tabled before reminded me, if you haven't tabled before, particularly in this case, people are going to come and challenge you. They're going to argue with you or keep asking more and more difficult or pointed questions. And you'll learn as you go at what point you want to be open and helpful and give information. And then sometimes I'll say, you know, I think we're just not going to agree, but it was awfully nice talking to you. There's also some lonely people who will come up and hang out with you. There was a guy at the Ferry Building when I did Obama for years in a blue striped shirt that I think was intellectually challenged. And he loved to come over, but after a while, we needed him to kind of move on because it would possibly keep others from showing up. And we had to find a nice way. You can look busy very, very quickly. And that way, if you have more than one person at the table, you can turn and say, oh, I forgot to tell you, and kind of distract attention. So, because you're out in public. And I think with Pete, some people are going to challenge. And it's okay, don't feel intimidated. Just be comfortable answering the questions. That's where the issues handouts are important.
You know, just to add to that point you just made about challenging, because I want to give a few examples that we saw on the flyer walk, right? You know, one woman who we walked past and we were trying to give her a flyer, she said she had like, you know, kind of a very sour look. No, I'm for Warren because she actually has a plan, you know, and you know, and the way we kind of handled it is, oh, no worries, you know, have a nice day, and you just move on, right? Yeah. And you don't take it personally because people, just like us, they're probably mobilizing, they're getting passionate about who they're supporting. So, you know, you just kind of say it with a smile because that's important, right? We want to put out this image that we're representative of the candidate being a gracious, classy kind of person. So we don't want to start getting combative with them, right?
Yeah.
Another example, we were at the drag brunch and somebody started giving us a very hard time. Why are you recruiting for San Francisco Pride? Has Pete just completely forgotten about San Jose because he doesn't do any events around here? Yeah, which is true. He hasn't done as many in San Jose. He's done a lot more in San Francisco, right? So again, you know, these are not deep policy discussions people are going to be battling with you, right? They're going to nitpick on things like that. And, you know, the way you handle it is you shrug it off and say, hey, we're also planning to march into San Jose Pride. You should come march with us if that's the one you want to go to.
And you could also say, we're actually recruiting more volunteers. We want to get better organized and have more events down here. You want to help us? And because San Jose will have its own pride, it just isn't the same weekend as San Francisco. And Pete is not only about pride.
Sorry?
I said, who would go to San Jose Pride if it were on the same weekend as San Francisco Pride?
That's why it's not. There is an Oakland Pride also later in the summer that I've
Okay.
done as well. It's decently attended.
Okay, so we should definitely get the Oakland team. I know there's an Oakland team as well that's been doing some
good.
grassroots stuff online. So we'll get them looped in on Oakland Pride.
Now, if you do bigger events, it's helpful if someone in the group has a 10 by 10 pop-up tent. It just means someone needs to purchase one and have it. Many people have one already that you can borrow.
I have one in my trunk.
Okay.
Everywhere I go, I need shade.
I actually bought one a few years ago because I was tired of borrowing the same camping tent from a volunteer in Oakland. And somebody's actually keeping it in their garage for me now. It's heavy.
It is.
And actually, if I have to put it in the front seat of the car in the passenger seat with the seat all the way back. I angle it in, and I have to put a seatbelt on it because the weight of it, the car thinks it's a passenger.
Oh, yeah.
It'll start beeping at me if I don't.
Yeah.
But it takes probably, unless you're used to it, it takes 2 people to put them up and to take them down. But they are very helpful because it gives you more visibility and shade. So if you're doing Pride or something like that, it's very good to have. And also to have the sandbags because they can blow away. Ironing boards are wonderful, but they do tip over easily. And if you have a banner, you can put it down here But I like to have wind vents cut in it, the slits, because if the wind comes up, it can be like a sail. Also, it's a pop-up tent. If you have the banner at the back and the wind comes up, it'll move the tent. But if you have, and they always argue with me about putting the wind vents in, and I insist, and then the wind just passes through it, and it doesn't have that effect. And you can't really tell that there are slits in it if they do it properly.
So Susan, what would you put your little Pete sign on your setup there? Your little orange and black Pete sign.
You can either
I want like this is
put it here for
Uh-huh.
this, or you can put it down here.
right on. Okay.
And if you have more than one ironing board, you can have this on one side and this on the other. I usually put several ironing boards with me, and it just depends how much space they will give you. Sometimes you can do it, you know, like this, like an L, and that way you can get people coming from the side. In fact, the one at Stonestown, there's a maximum amount of space you can have, and I use the 4-foot tables. So I do one this way and one this way, and that gets me the 10 feet without having, without having too many tables. So you kind of work around, and just always be cheerful and friendly. And likely going forward, there may be another candidate tabling at the same farmer's market. The Bernie supporters have been tabling for 4 years, for 3 years. At Stonestown, I think they've been out there continually. A good friend of mine that used to table for Obama with me is there most weekends, or their group is. And so you just have to learn to coexist and not say anything negative about them. And if you hear anything negative, to say, let's make a deal. I won't say anything negative about your candidate, and hopefully you'll reciprocate. And usually they will. But that we're probably going to see a lot of that. And it may be too many candidates trying to table at the same farmer's market. So it's good to develop a relationship and to let them know ahead of time that you're coming. So that, and like I said, some of them you just show up, but if they know you, the ones where you just show up, they can usually find extra space. The other ones may have a prescribed space, and they'll limit maybe 2 groups being there at the same time. So
you get that form from by going the week before and getting the scoop from them.
If it's one I haven't done before, I like to go by the week before, ask questions at the information booth, let them know what we're doing. That's also how I also scout to see, okay, where am I going to park after I unload? Because in San Francisco, that can be an issue. It may not be down here. Are there good farmers markets down here?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. In Mountain View, Santana Row. I have to say, I'm not sure how, compared to San Francisco, as far as the candidate tabling goes, I haven't seen too much down here. I don't know if folks in the room
No,
have
I
seen
haven't.
anything. No?
I
Yeah.
haven't seen a lot in San Francisco.
Okay.
I haven't been to the Stonestown one, which is my
I
go-to.
feel like San Francisco in general is more politically active than
It
down
is,
here.
but I'm not sure the campaigns are gearing up yet. I thought we'd be behind, but we may not be.
Yeah.
And to me, it's the easiest, fastest way to let people know you exist. Had I not gone to a watch party for a town hall that Pete did, I would never have met Joe. I didn't know there was a team in San Francisco because I've been watching from home by myself. And that's how you let people know you exist and strike up those conversations. And often, if they're fans, they're going to be excited to see you there. And if they're not, you'll learn how to maneuver them.
So, Susan, on that, you've done 6 campaigns, or 6 presidential campaigns, right?
Yeah.
And I remember talking to a friend of mine about tabling. He's like, "What is that? That sounds like low impact. Like, wouldn't social media be more powerful?" So make the case for tabling. So for
Okay.
us, so we can say, "Hey,
So
it's
you're
one,
sitting at
you know,
home and you see on Facebook, hey, there's a team for Pete in the area. Sign up here. Or you see a tweet. That can be impactful, and you join and you go to a meeting. But let's say you're at a farmer's market and you see a setup and you can have a conversation with someone. you get more excited, I think. It's not as passive. And then they can say to you, this is the kind of things we do. So if you join the team, this is one of the things that we'll be doing. The other thing is I have another form I didn't bring up here, but let's see if I brought it with me. That you want to start filling out the different roles. One of the things that I did, actually did some regional trainings. I did one in this room for Hillary back in 2015. And it was about building the teams. And I went through the camp. You guys know about Camp Obama? Anyone hear about that? The training they did in 2008. And one of the things is you want to build your core team members. You'll have someone who does data, who databases the volunteers and the results from your various activities. You'll have a phone bank coordinator, someone who manages that. They get the list, they find this, they may have their own team. You got to find a space. You're lucky you can probably do it in here. We're not in San Francisco, so this is a gold mine. But let's say you're doing a phone bank. Somebody's got to coordinate the links and the how to do it and send out the emails and sign people up to make sure they're here. So you have a phone bank coordinator. You have a volunteer coordinator. So when people come to you via social media or tabling and say, I want to volunteer, somebody databases those. So then you can send an email out to them. We're having a meeting. We want to get you more involved. You can have an event coordinator who does the tabling. That may be one person who likes doing that, and that's their responsibility. A social media coordinator. Just went out of my head, one of the things that I was thinking, and it just went out of my head. But, oh, so this is an old tool we used in the Obama campaign. I only have a couple of these. But when we signed up a new volunteer, we would then individually, we'd invite them to have a cup of coffee. I'll give you one of these. And I think I have enough that we can share a few of these that you can pass around. And I have an extra one for my training guide. It's two-sided. So somebody signs up to be a volunteer and you contact them, and your volunteer coordinator could be the person doing this, and say, I see you signed up for the Peak team. Want to have a cup of coffee? Let's talk. So you sit down with them, and this is one I adapted from the Obama campaign, and you give them this one-on-one sheet. Most of this is not anything you're going to use. I'm sorry.
Do we have one more? I think we got two more people in the back.
No, they're going to have to
Okay,
share. I
all
just
right.
didn't bring it up
Okay,
with
no
me.
problem. No problem.
I threw it in at the last minute.
No problem. If you don't
I can
mind, I'm
just
going to
take a
look. I'm going to
picture.
share with you right
Yeah,
here.
and I can send it to you. So it gets their contact information at the top, and then it says, why and in what way are you interested in getting involved in this campaign? So you give them this on a clipboard and ask them to fill it out. It takes a few minutes. What has your personal experience been with a political campaign? What ideas do you have for Pete and his campaign team? This is not anything they're going to use, but it helps them mentally get involved and start thinking. What best practices have you learned about the campaign, or you think the campaign should adopt? And then there's several systems we use, and you ask them, do they have a computer, a smartphone, a laptop, an iPad? This is a little bit older form, but it tells you at what level. They could be an older person that doesn't have some of these. They could be a younger person that has even more than this. And you have regular access to broadband. Then on the back are the constituency groups, the ethnic groups that they belong to. And they check these off. So if you're building teams for different communities, this tells you what section to put them in. So if you're looking for ethnic teams, you can put them in that. If you're looking for professional associations or things like that, you can find that on there. So we found this to be very helpful. Yeah. And also just having that conversation that they get more excited about getting involved. And you can talk about the things the team has been doing.
Okay, and so this is what we give them when they've signed up with us, and then we try to either get them in a one-on-one or.
When you invite them to have a cup of coffee,
Sure,
you do it
sure.
there.
Okay.
And be prepared. It takes them a few minutes to fill in this first part, so you're sitting there, but it gets them mentally buying into it, and they may start asking you questions, and then you can explain to them, these are the kinds of activities we're doing right now. We're tabling, we may be phone banking soon, or we're doing social media, et cetera, and ask them about their interests in those particular areas.
Yeah, and I think the other thing I would add to that I saw on the flyer walk, people like to know about fun events that you're doing as well.
Yes.
So they like that.
Yes.
I told them we recently had a
Socials.
barbecue, we had a debate
Yeah.
party. You know, you can just come and rant with your fellow liberal friends.
Oh my goodness,
you
you
know.
can, if you're doing debate parties, there's like once a month are the debates.
Right.
And you can have flyers with the information on the debate watch parties. And then at the watch parties, sign people up for the team. Because there may be people that hear about the watch party and show up, and then you'll probably do an introduction of,
right,
this is the local team, here are the things we're doing, and maybe have something that they can fill out with what they want to do.
Our watch parties were some of the biggest recruitment events for us. In fact, this group really got its momentum from the initial watch party for his announcement. His rollout. So hope
too.
Yeah. You know, I mean,
And
they
I
had
didn't even know you were
125
there.
people. Yeah. So that's a big one because I just find people for them this is a social outlet in a lot of ways. They may not necessarily go into it wanting to canvas or do the hard work.
Yeah, and always if they come up to the table or at a party, the standard question is, how did you discover Pete? What do you like about him? And people love to share.
Susan, what do you find the easiest thing for people to do? Like the first, they've never been involved in a campaign and they want to get involved. Is there something you suggest that they start with? What is the gateway drug for
Well, for me, it's tabling. And they may say, oh, I can't talk to people, I'm shy. You don't have to. You can just be there. You can be a body there. And I've had people where I've given them the clipboard and with the sign on the back and just said, walk around holding this, or just stand here. If you have any other chores that you need, you can, if they like computers and they wanted to help database, soon, I'm hearing rumors, July or August, they're going to start organizing. I don't know if you're hearing anything.
For the California
In
office.
California, yeah.
They are hiring somebody, and I believe by end of summer they are going to have a proper California office. Now,
where is going to be the question?
Well, I would think it would either be Oakland or San Francisco. I don't
But they
see
won't
it
have
being down
one.
here.
It won't be like a general election with one candidate where they'll have one in every city. So they probably will have one.
I think they're going to have a mothership, and
yeah.
I would place my bets on San Francisco just because I know several folks that are already there, already from the fundraising side of the house. So I would imagine when your fundraising guys are there, that's where you'd be.
And the person I know that's been interviewing for a tech job first told me would be probably August. And then today might be July that they'll start organizing. And I don't know at what level or how or why, but the primary is going to be the goal. So we will probably be, I'm guessing, phone banking and texting will be a lot, and also visibility, being out in the community. Here's the goal for the primary, is to get, because there's going to be multiple candidates, there'll probably be 5 or 6 at least. The goal is to get at least 15% of the vote. Then we get delegates to the convention, whether he gets the nomination or not. It's proportional. So 15% is the threshold, and say you get 16% of the vote, and it's by congressional district. So you could get 20% here and 10% in another congressional district. It just depends. But if you get over 15%, then you will get a minimal number of delegates. So when they elect the delegates to go to the convention, we will be doing it before the end of the primary, so we don't know who the final candidate will be. But if we, in 2008, both Hillary and Obama had delegates. In 2016, both Hillary and Bernie had delegates because the primary was before the end of the campaign. So it's proportional, and it'll be curious this time, but 15% is the threshold. And so we want to at least get that far.
Yeah, so I mean, if for people who came to our first chapter meeting, remember that breakdown we did of District 19, right? We're really suppressed in terms of the voter turnout. We're not seeing, even in a primary season, a lot of people coming out to vote. So big objective for us, expand the electorate. There are a lot of groups down here that are still not being reached out to. And I have to say, I saw that firsthand at the flyer walk this weekend. I mean, so many people just told me no one's even bothered to come by.
It's early.
It's early, but I don't know how. Again, I can't say for San Francisco. I know down here, midterm season, it was dead. I really did not see a whole lot happening around here.
Well, there were no really competitive seats down here.
Yeah, I mean,
what we were doing in San Francisco, I worked part-time for Nancy Pelosi, and she paid for a major campaign office in San Francisco, where we called and texted for about 20 congressional races, the 7 in California that we won, and then we kept adding more of them, and we won 17 out of the 20. And we had hundreds of volunteers coming through there to make calls and to text people. We weren't doing it for the local races, but something I am willing to do later, and I did them for Hillary, and here, I'll share this with you. This was what I sent the campaign a few weeks ago, most of which isn't happening, but what I told them that they should be doing. What we did with the Obama campaign was we formed neighborhood teams. Now you've got a chapter, which is great. As you grow, you may want neighborhood teams where people will find a location in their neighborhood. You may want to just have it all run through here. It will vary, but if you get a couple of hundred volunteers.
We're working on getting a Palo Alto Peninsula chapter going, but I think for now this is kind of the mothership for us, so it's early again.
And then we'll talk about phone banking skills. In the Obama campaign, we called it telling your personal story. And it's just how to talk to a voter about Pete. The reason I'm supporting him is, and when you're calling people, you will usually see their age and sex. And I always think in terms, who am I talking to? And most of us have more than one personal story. And I have borrowed from other people before, if you can do it convincingly. And then you share the personal story that, for instance, women's reproductive rights. If it's someone in their 60s or 70s, they're going to remember pre-Roe versus Wade. That's going to be a powerful tool to share your passion with making sure we don't overturn that. Millennials don't really understand, nothing personal, but you haven't lived with back alley deaths, back alley abortions. I have, and I have several personal stories I could share about that. And you don't want to come off heavy, but if there is something that relates.
The LGBT thing is big in our generation, because this was the generation that saw legalization of gay marriage.
Yes.
And a lot, I mean, I know in college, so many of my friends came out, or, I knew everybody here, I'm sure knows somebody in college that had to deal with that. So that could be, that's one
absolutely.
area.
And you get used to sharing that, and you can hone it down. And then be sure to listen, and you can ask people their issues as well. So the goal is to try to have a conversation. When we get closer to the primary, it's going to be a little more difficult because every campaign is going to be calling the same voters, and they're not going to want to talk. And so there are things like somebody answers the phone. Hi, my name is Susan. I'm a volunteer for the Pete Buttigieg campaign. I'm not calling to ask for money. I just need 60 seconds. That tells them I'm not a fundraiser and I'm not going to read a speech. And you learn to work off the script. The scripts are vetted by lawyers. They have to be, and they are much longer than is comfortable. If you've ever been called on a campaign and you can tell the volunteer is reading a speech, reading a script, you're thinking to yourself, how soon can I get off this call? So learn to make it more personable and let them know up front, you're not going to read a speech and you're not fundraising. And try to open it up that way. It'll vary. You'll get better at it as you go.
You know, the biggest question that I get is, can he beat Trump? And how realistically do you think someone like him can beat Trump? And usually the personal story I give is, I'm from a red city, and I've interacted with a lot of people that fold within that electorate. And so I know the way that Pete talks is a way that can really break through that, because I grew up as a liberal in that town. And that usually is kind of, sometimes people don't necessarily open up with what they think of a candidate, because either they don't know who he is or they just don't feel comfortable sharing. And so when you open up with your own story and how you got connected with the person, that tends to let them also feel free to open up with their own story.
That's a perfect example, because you're opening the door. And OFA, the old Obama group that is now gone, they've wrapped in with Eric Holder's all on the line on voter registration. But they had some really good trainings last year and a new version about deep listening and being able to ask questions and listen to the person you're talking to. The original Obama was sharing your personal story and talking about yourself, but opening it up to them. The other way is asking questions and listening. You find what works best for you, and just don't read a script, because that's the kiss of death. And they may do some trainings on that. I don't know what their approach will be.
Also, Max Rose used a group up in New York, and they have some online material. I'll forward it out to the email list here. And it was very similar to the points you're talking about, the deep listening, how to pivot if somebody gives you an objection. And they actually have a video where they did the live door knocking, and the person asked the question and kind of walks you through how they handle objections. And
is that the video where I'm trying to think what the issue was, that there was an African-American woman and I think it was about gay marriage. And
I haven't seen that.
She had an objection until the person just kept asking questions, and it turned out her nephew had been born a woman and had changed sex, and she realized she had not been accepting of that, and at the door realized that she had been wrong. And it was just by asking the questions and listening. So you kind of get better at it. Eye contact is always helpful, but on the phone, you'll find ways to do it. And I'm sure they'll do trainings on that when we get ready to do it.
The Peak campaign?
I think the Peak campaign, they should be. Because they probably have somebody there that has been involved with one of the Obama campaigns. And we'll do that. They may do a video that they do nationally, or they may have the local volunteer be doing that. And then most of it's done online. If they have the money to do a predictive dialer, if any of you use those in campaigns, that's a system, you do it online, and it speed dials through massive numbers of phone numbers. And then if someone actually picks up when it hears a human voice, the screen changes and it's live, and you start talking right away. And that saves you all the dialing and no one's home, and then you dial another one, no one's home kind of thing. They're expensive, and many campaigns don't use them until they get later, towards the end of the campaign. But in the midterms, most of them were using them, so I think they become more cost efficient.
So, Susan, I think, we're
we're
out
running.
of, unfortunately, we're out of time, but I do want to, any burning questions from folks here today for Susan that we want to ask before we wrap up?
Let me give you this. And I know Loretta, who's table seesaw. She's an amazing phone banker. She has a team. We became friends during the Hillary campaign.
Oh, is that right?
Loretta's Brigade, they're called.
Oh, yeah. She did an amazing job during the midterms. I saw when Indivisible honored them.
Yeah.
So,
Not Susan related, but just on another topic. Happy Juneteenth, everyone. If you don't know what that is, look it up.
Do you all know the history of Juneteenth?
Yes.
What it means?
Also, when you come to march for the parade, just a reminder, please do bring cash, because I'll have buttons to sell, and I paid for them out of pocket, so I'd really like to recoup those. costs. So
Although you will have a little trouble while you're marching,
no,
selling and
with
making
the
change.
not with just with the people who are marching with.
Absolutely, yes, in the staging area.
Yeah.
Yeah, good idea.
I don't have the buttons yet.
Oh, okay.
So
You want your ballots back. You want your registration forms back, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can
I think
keep
we
if
have
you
one
want.
question in the back. Okay.
Question about it says here San Francisco County. Does it matter, like, if, for example, the person I'm talking to is from
I
another
have a
county?
feeling we would need Santa Clara County. Am I correct for the voter reg?
No, they're good anywhere in the state.
Oh,
Whatever
okay.
registrar you get them from, it will say that county at the top, but that's a very good question. People often ask, they're good anywhere in the state of California, because they're input into the main state's database.
Okay, perfect.
Like, okay, baby, you gotta go home and go to bed.
plans for
Thank you so much, Susan. This was awesome. Thank you.
I'm excited.
Did everybody get these 10 flyers to
I did not.
All right, folks, thank you very much for joining us today.
I need
And
10 more
we'll,
flyers.
okay, and we will have this available online on our YouTube page. Thank you and see you at Pride.